Hi guys, so today I thought I would do a tag that I was tagged in and that is the Bookish Beginnings tag, which was created by Lauren over at Reads and Daydreams, and she tagged me to do it as well. And it's such a fun tag, and I prefer to sit down and do tags having not prepared whatsoever. So I've left it a few weeks since watching people's tags and I haven't rechecked the questions. So now I'm going to see what comes out of my brain and my mouth on the spot when answering these questions. This is probably a bad idea, I probably should have written some answers down. Well, that's what editing's for, isn't it? Question number 1, tell us what you loved to read as a child. Now, I was an avid reader as a child. From as soon as I could read by myself, I made my parents give me the books to read by myself that they'd been reading to me up until this point. I loved reading, and I used to visit the library constantly as a child, and I'm trying to think now what I used to take out of the library the most, because there was books I would take out again and again and again, and they probably just had like my library number stamped on them, like one after the other, one after the other. So I remember books that I used to take out a lot were the Jacqueline Wilson books, although I owned quite a few of those. I loved my Jacqueline Wilson books. I loved the Asterix graphic novel series. I read every single one that was out to date from the library. My library had all of them. Never managed to quite get into Tintin though, even though they had those as well. I used to be obsessed with this series called Vlad the Drac, and it was about a little vampire who I think he liked tomato ketchup, if I recall correctly, and he'd come home with a family from their holiday and now lived with them in England. I loved the Vlad the Drac books. I loved the Pongwiffy books. There's a series about a witch called Pongwiffy and her coven. I loved anything fantastical or fantasy or with a bit of magic or the paranormal in it as a kid, including things like The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and Debbie Glory's Pure Dead Magic series, Carly Bone series. Of course I loved Harry Potter. I started reading Harry Potter when I was about 6 or 7, loved all of those. There were so many books I loved as a child. When I was even younger than that, I used to love Jemima Puddle Duck and all of the different Beatrix Potter books and Winnie the Pooh. I would say I loved everything as a child because I quite often took books back to the library that I'd read the first 10 pages of and never bothered to finish because I just wasn't into them. I knew what I liked, and I knew quite early on in a book whether I liked it or not. And I'm still the same today, but I gotta stop because I can't. There was so many things. Like, I loved all of the reading, but mainly magical or about animals. What was the first piece of adult fiction you tried? And I think that's probably Terry Pratchett's Small Gods, or at least it's the one that sticks out in my memory. I think I was around 10 when I read Terry Pratchett's Small Gods, which was probably a bit young, and I remember not fully understanding it, although I enjoyed it because it had those magical, funny elements about it. I mean, I wasn't the age demographic, but I was on holiday with my parents and I'd run out of books of my own to read, so my dad gave me Small Gods, which he'd finished on holiday, and I read that. And yeah, I then was maybe like another year or two before I read another Terry Pratchett book, which was The Wee Freeman, and since that is actually aimed at a more of a young adult audience, that's kind of what got me into Terry Pratchett in the Discworld. I did read Small Gods very early on, and if I did try another adult book before that, I can't remember. What was the first classic book you read not because of school? I think that was A Midsummer Night's Dream. I think. It's really difficult to remember. I mean, I read Alice in Wonderland when I was really young with my parents, and I guess that's a classic, and The Lion, the Witch and Wardrobe, but these are all classics children's literature. So if I'm thinking of non-classic children's literature, I think it was A Midsummer Night's Dream, which again, I was maybe like 10 or 11 when I tried to read because I knew it was about fairies and everyone talked about Shakespeare and I wanted to read about the fairies, and I'm not gonna lie, did I understand most of it? No, I didn't. I read it anyway, and I reread it when I was a bit older and I understood it a bit better. And then I had to read it again. There was enough in that book that kept me interested even if I didn't follow all of it. So I remember reading that when I was still in primary school, although like near the age of leaving primary school, and being so intrigued, and even though I didn't understand it all, I knew I wanted to understand it all. So I gave it some time and I came back to it, and now it's one of my favourite Shakespeare plays. It's also about a lot more than fairies. Question number 4, tell us about the book that made you realise what your favourite genre or writing style was. Now this is so difficult because if you saw my recent video on literary tastes, you'll know that I like to read a wide variety of literature. So if I can think of a few things that started me on certain roads. I loved fantasy from a very, very young age, and even before I'd read Harry Potter, I'd already read or listened to things like The Secret of Platform 13, and I think The Secret of Platform 13 and The Little White Horse, which is more of a mystery, magic, realism story. Like, really influenced my reading taste as a kid, and they're still two of my favourites. Neither of which I own though, and would really like to pick up so that I can reread again now that I'm an adult. I know that those kind of influenced my interest in the magic and the mystery. And then of course Harry Potter had an influence on my love of fantasy, because I love fantasy. The next genre that I'm probably the most interested in is classical literature. And I wouldn't say it was a piece of classical literature that got me interested in that. It was actually Margaret Atwood's Penelopiad, which I read when I was 14 in high school. Not for high school, but we were to pick a book that was like an adult book, a piece of literary fiction, to all read individually and write something on. So my dad had that, and I decided I wanted to read that one, and I loved it. It was a retelling of Homer's Odyssey from his wife Penelope's perspective. I hadn't read the Odyssey, but I still adored this book. I was already interested in Greek mythology and ancient history from reading kids' books and watching documentaries. But this like piece of adult literary fiction really made me want to read some of the original stuff from the time period. What was the first literary prize winner you read? I don't know, like this is just so difficult. I couldn't pinpoint it, because lots of the children's books I've read, like Harry Potter and Jacqueline Wilson books, won children's literary book awards. A few of Margaret Atwood's books have been in literary awards. I know some of Roddy Doyle's books have won literary prizes. I mean, lots of the books I've read have won literary prizes, but I'm not sure if I've ever gone out of my way to read a book because it won a literary prize. Though some of the books I've read that did win literary prizes were amazing, but I just don't know if I picked them up because they won literary prizes, if this makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I recently read The Chimes, which is longlisted for the Man Booker Prize. But the thing is, I did already want to read The Chimes. I guess just now I'm reading Staten Island for the Man Booker Prize, and I would probably have never picked up Staten Island if it wasn't for the fact that I was trying to read the long list. So that's really interesting. I'm glad I've done that. And actually in reading the Man Booker long list, it has made me realise that maybe picking up books because they're part of a prize is a good way to be introduced to new genres and new authors and new books that you wouldn't have picked up anyway. What was the first piece of translated fiction that you read? Again, these are questions that I don't know the answer to. I think until I was on Booktube, I was very unconscious of things like this. I wasn't aware if something I was reading was a piece of translated fiction. But I mean, obviously I'd read a lot of ancient literature. I think one of the first pieces of ancient literature I read was Medea, which is an ancient Greek play. So obviously that was translated from the ancient Greek. Something else that comes to mind is maybe The 13½ Lives of Captain Bluebear, which is a kind of adult/children's book. It's kind of appropriate for everybody, and it was originally translated from the German. Asterix! Asterix and Obelix is actually written originally in French, so there we go. It's probably Asterix. Question number 7. Tell us why you started Booktube and what it was like to upload your first video. Okay, so some of you know, some of you don't. Booktube was not my first foray into YouTube. I've been properly on YouTube since about 2010 is when I first started making videos, and I didn't make a book video until 2012. If I quickly talk about starting YouTube in general, the first YouTube video I ever uploaded was a video on minimum pricing on alcohol in Scotland, because that was something that was trying to be put through, and it was a motion that I supported, having minimum pricing on certain units of alcohol. And I wanted to do political videos. I really liked Jazza from Rhyming with Oranges videos, and I really wanted to make political videos, so I uploaded that video. And then after that I uploaded a few videos about the increase in student fees in England and Wales and Ireland that was currently going on. None of which are currently available, so you cannot see any of them. They were not great, like they were filmed in terrible lighting. It looked like it was like the dead of night. You could barely see what I looked like. There was so many pauses because apparently I didn't know how to cut out a pause, so it's just me sitting there and then I'd go, oh, I forgot what I'm gonna say. And then start again, but the pauses would be longer than that. And it was daunting. It was daunting uploading my first videos. I was like 18 and it was a bit intimidating. And YouTube had been something I'd wanted to do for such a long time as well that I probably put a bit of pressure on myself by this point, and I think you shouldn't do that. Like, you shouldn't build up what YouTube is. Anybody can do YouTube, and like it's really not a big deal, just give it a shot. Actually, I think it's easier now to do YouTube because so many people do YouTube. It's not mainstream, but so many people are aware that people upload videos to YouTube that it doesn't seem as silly. Like when I was 18, I'd been wanting to do it for years, but I was too embarrassed that I'd upload a video and people in school would be like, oh, what's she doing uploading videos to YouTube? Because nobody I knew watched YouTube videos, whereas things I feel like are different now. And for all the negative aspects there's from YouTube having grown, that's a good thing. It's like, it's not as weird to upload YouTube videos, so you know, go for it, do it now. I started doing Booktube because, like I said, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do on YouTube. I did some political videos, I did fashion videos for like over a year. I just knew I enjoyed uploading videos. But when I was filming fashion videos, I got chatting to Words of a Reader, Leslie, who filmed book videos, and I realised that people uploaded book reviews to YouTube, which I didn't know. So I decided I wanted to do that too because I loved reading, and I did. And I decided, okay, I already had this channel which was full of fashion videos and people were watching it for fashion, and to be honest I wasn't that proud of most of the videos, so I thought I would just make a new channel and I'd call it Bookish Thoughts, and decided to upload. I think it was my Christmas book haul was the first video I made specifically for this. And you know what, it felt really good. This is so rambly, I have so many, maybe I think I should just do a video on me starting YouTube, so we'll just stop. 19 minutes long, okay, I'm going. So I'm not sure who has and hasn't been tagged, so I'll maybe do some research on that and tag some people in the description box down below. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do want to do it, I highly recommend filming it. But first, definitely go and check out Lauren's original video, and until next time guys, happy reading, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye guys!